For 10 years, I loved Lucas Bennett in silence. 10 whole years of lingering glances, hopeful waiting, and clinging to every little gesture he gave me. But eventually, even the deepest devotion runs dry. One day, I finally saw it for what it was: empty, pathetic, unreturned. I stopped reaching out to him, returned the gifts he once gave me, and rejected every single invitation. 1 month passed, then 2. I vanished from his world completely, as if I had never existed in it. Until one evening, my best friend uploaded a picture online. It was dimly lit, grainy from the low lighting, but unmistakably intimate. A pale hand rested delicately on the narrow waist of a man, and just beneath the fingertips was a tattoo, my name inked into his skin. My heart clenched. Tension wrapped around me like a vice. Lucas must have seen it too, because for the first time in months, he showed up. He came looking for me, probably thinking he'd still find the same girl waiting around for scraps of his attention. But instead, he found me in someone else's arms. That man kissed me with a kind of desperation that made me forget where I was. I let him. And when Lucas appeared stunned and breathless, the other guy smirked and raised a brow at him. "What's the matter, Mr. Bennett? Do you get off on watching other people kiss?" Lucas didn't answer. His eyes dropped to the phone in my hand. My lock screen. His photo. His expression shifted. Part amused. Part disbelieving. "You like me?" he asked, almost with a laugh. "Are you serious?" I bit my lip, cheeks flushed, and nodded. I was serious. My heart was pounding so loud I couldn't hear anything else. He stood near the hallway window, bathed in the hazy neon light. His face unreadable, almost like a dream I couldn't reach. "Vivi," he finally said, his voice calm, detached. "You're not the kind of girl I like. I've always seen you as a sister, nothing more." For a second I thought I misheard him. A sister. How could that be? Lucas had been by my side for as long as I could remember. He was always there, close enough that all I had to do was turn around and he'd be right behind me. During senior year, when the pressure of college entrance exams made my skin break out in painful stress, acne he cooked for me, helped me study, stayed up late with me just to make sure I was okay. When I got mugged overseas and called him in tears, he flew in on a private jet just to hold me and say, "Don't cry, I'm here, lean on me." When one of his business partners made a crude joke about me, Lucas didn't say a word. He dismantled the deal, and by the end of the week, that partner's company had filed for bankruptcy. He never even raised his voice at me, but would ruin anyone who dared to hurt me. When I fought with my family about inheriting the business, he stood beside me in front of everyone and said, "If she wants to do nothing, I'll take care of her." That kind of care, that kind of tenderness, it couldn't just be familial. No brother would go that far. And we weren't even blood related. I refused to let go of his hand. "Lucas, I don't want to be your little sister," I whispered. "I've loved you for so long. I want to be your girlfriend." He lit a cigarette, exhaled slowly, and looked at me with tired eyes. "Vivi, I want things to stay the same between us." He took another drag. Then, seeing me cough from the smoke, he immediately put it out. That was just like him. Careful, considerate, distant. "Lovers break up," he said. "But family stays. Don't you understand?" I shook my head. "You're still young. You don't know the difference between love and dependency. Go fall for someone else. Then you'll understand." "I do understand," I said, clutching his hand tighter. "I've known the difference for a long time now. I've loved you for a long time, Lucas. Please just give me a chance." That was it. Everything I had left, all my dignity, all my vulnerability poured into that one plea. But he said nothing. He just looked at me, his face unreadable, his eyes growing colder by the second. There was even a flicker of impatience. I couldn't hold back the tears. They fell silently, one after another. He just stood there watching, unmoved. It was exhausting, humiliating. I felt like a child throwing a tantrum for love, and that made it all even more pathetic. I stopped crying, slowly, bit by bit. He pulled his hand away. In that moment, it felt like he was choosing to let me go. Or maybe he just wanted me to let go on my own. Either way, it was a goodbye. His smile faded. His whole demeanor shifted, cold, indifferent. Like I was just another awkward obligation he had to deal with. "Vivi," he said quietly, "a girl who throws herself at a man like this loses her value." The words caught in my throat. I had so much to say, but suddenly none of it felt worth saying. So I smiled. A quiet, broken smile. I get it, Lucas. I wiped away the last of my tears myself. Outside, the rain kept falling soft and relentless. And inside, everything had gone quiet. He offered to take me home. I shook my head. No need. He seemed like he wanted to say something more, but in the end he only gave a small nod. Take care of yourself. I will, I replied quietly, then turned around and walked away. The rain hadn't stopped. I took a cab back to campus, clutching my bag over my head like a shield. Water soaked through my coat, dripped down my neck, seeped into my shoes. By the time I reached the gate, I was drenched from head to toe. I wiped my face, unsure if it was rain or tears blurring my vision. Just when I was about to step into the downpour again, an umbrella appeared above me. I looked up. It was Ethan Graham, a quiet guy from my class, someone I barely knew outside of shared notes and passing nods. He held the umbrella without saying a word, his hand steady even in the wind. I accepted his kindness, said thank you, and we walked the last stretch of path under a shared silence. That night I came down with a fever so intense, it felt like my body was punishing me for everything I had tried to hold in. As I tossed in bed, head spinning, my chest burning, I realized something. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was what heartbreak really looked like. Not dramatic tears under the stars, not screaming or shouting, but lying in bed sick to your bones, crying into your pillow without even knowing why anymore. By the weekend, my mom called. "Sweetheart," she said warmly, "our family's having dinner at the Bennett's tonight. Let the driver take you over later, okay?" Just the mention of Lucas's name made my stomach twist. I answered weakly, "Mom, I'm not feeling well. I don't want to go." "There's nothing serious," she coaxed. "Just stop by to say hello and leave early if you'd like. You don't have to stay long." I hesitated for a moment, then gave in. After hanging up, my best friend Lena Moore sent me a picture. It was taken at an auction a few days prior. In it, Lucas Bennett stood next to a podium raising his paddle to bid on something. "He bought this for you," Lena wrote. "A necklace. If you already received it, forget I said anything. But why didn't you tell me?" My heart skipped. I knew that necklace. I'd fallen in love with it months ago. I'd even told Lucas about it in passing, never expecting he'd remember. And yet, when I walked into the Bennett's home that night, the necklace was there, glittering on the collarbone of another woman. Sophia Collins. She greeted me with a smile that was both gracious and distant. "Vivi, you've grown up so much. You're even more beautiful now." I forced a smile. "You too. I hope you've been well." Sophia had always been impressive. Elegant, intelligent, and poised. She was Lucas's equal in every way. Same age, same social circle, same business acumen. In a room full of powerful men, she never looked out of place. Compared to her, I felt like a lost child holding on to a daydream. It didn't take a genius to see that tonight was meant for them. A family dinner, yes, but more than that, a setup. I wasn't sad, not really. I just kept asking myself, why that necklace? Why the one I loved? Why give it to someone else? When I looked up, Lucas was already watching me. He frowned slightly, then looked away as if I'd caught him doing something he wasn't proud of. Maybe he hadn't expected me to show up. Maybe he wished I hadn't. After all, things were out in the open now. I had confessed. He had rejected me. What place did I have here anymore? I remembered asking him once about the rumors between him and Sophia. He had laughed it off. "We're too alike," he had said. "Both too headstrong. We'd clash. She's more of a business partner than anything else." Back then, I believed him. I told myself maybe someone softer like me was what he really needed. But I was just lying to myself, wasn't I? I didn't stay for dessert. Instead, I texted Lena. It wasn't for me. And yes, he turned me down after I confessed. Said I was like a sister to him. As I packed up the things Lucas had once given me, Lena kept talking through video chat. "He turned you down, are you kidding me, Lucas? Bennett, he adores you?" "No," I said, holding a small box in my hands. "He said I'm like a sister, that he doesn't want to cross that line." Inside the box was a gift from his trip to Pakistan. He had stayed an extra day just to find it. That decision almost cost him his life. I remembered it clearly. We were video calling when a sudden explosion cut the connection. A stray bomb had gone off right behind him. I cried all night, unable to sleep, thinking the worst. But the next day he came back. bandaged, bruised, but smiling with that same gift in his hand. He cupped my tear-stained face and said softly, "I'm not dead. I'm right here." That was the kind of man he was for me, at least. For years I thought what we had was something special, a quiet kind of romance that only we understood. But I was wrong. In his eyes, I was family. Someone to protect. Someone to be there for, but never someone to love. The realization stung more than I expected. That night, I stepped out onto the balcony to clear my head. The Bennett estate was next door, and from where I stood, I could see Lucas on his balcony. Standing beside him was Sophia. They were close, too close. Maybe they were kissing, maybe not. It didn't really matter. What mattered was that for the first time, I didn't feel like crying. I didn't feel anything at all. They looked like they were kissing. Lucas's gaze flicked toward me for a moment, and in that instant, I felt like a thief caught in the act. Embarrassed, I retreated back inside and pulled the curtain shut. For a split second, I wondered if that's what he wanted to let me see it, to push me away for good. But what he didn't realize was that my heart had already died long ago on that rainy night. I no longer cared about updates from his life or who he was with. My only concern now was finding the right moment to return everything he had given me. That chapter of my life was over. A few days later, we celebrated Lena's birthday at one of our usual hangout spots. Just as I arrived, Blake Carter walked in slightly breathless from the cold. "Guess who I just saw?" he said, excitement lighting up his face. "Lucas Bennett. At the restaurant next door. I invited him over, but he just said he'd pay the bill and not come." Before we could react, Blake blurted out the punchline. He was having dinner with Sophia Collins. Lena immediately tried to shush him, reaching out to cover his mouth, but it was too late. Everyone turned to look at me. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The silence said enough. "Seriously," Blake said, confused. "What did I say wrong? I just mentioned Vivi. Why are you acting like I dropped a bomb?" Lena shot him a glare, then turned back to me. "Vivi, don't let this get to you. Guys like him, they're replaceable. One leaves, another shows up. You'll see." I smiled faintly. "It's your birthday. Don't worry about me." "My wish this year is for all of us to be happy," she said, squeezing my hand. "Lucas doesn't understand how rare it is to be loved for so long. That's his loss." Then with a mischievous glint in her eye, she added, "You should hire a male model, someone who worships the ground you walk on. Let him revolve his whole world around you. I bet Lucas would regret everything." "Hire a model," Blake laughed. "Where do you even come up with this stuff?" While they bickered back and forth, I stepped out onto the balcony for some air. The street below was dim, damp, and mostly empty except for a group of boys cornering someone. One figure stood out. Disheveled clothes, bloodied knuckles. My breath caught in my throat. It was Ethan Graham. We had gone to school together for 3 years, but I never knew his life was this hard. He'd always kept his head down, always seemed distant, but now I saw him differently, vulnerable, raw. I rushed down to help him. After the others had scattered, I offered him some money. "Pay off your debt. And the rest use it for your grandmother's medical bills." He stared at me stunned, his eyes turning glassy. His fists clenched at his sides, veins standing out starkly against his pale skin. "I'll pay you back," he said hoarsely. "Or if you ever need anything at all, I'll be there." Fate works in strange ways. One small moment of kindness, one decision without much thought. And suddenly Ethan Graham was my boyfriend. At first I didn't even realize how it happened. He had always struck me as aloof, even arrogant. Rumor had it he was popular on campus, always featured on confession boards and social media posts. But he never paid attention. His mind was elsewhere, on business, on side projects, on things most students didn't understand. He'd already won several startup competitions and ranked top of his class. I couldn't imagine someone like him paying attention to someone like me. But he did. Maybe it was the way our roles reversed. After years of chasing Lucas, here was someone who chased me. Ethan took the lead in everything. He was attentive, thoughtful, and despite his busy life, he always found time for me. Even though our relationship had started with money, it slowly shifted into something more. Something real. A month passed, then 2. We held hands. We shared quiet conversations over coffee. We embraced like normal couples do. And during all that time, I didn't reach out to Lucas once. One day, Lena told me that she and Blake had bumped into Lucas again. Apparently, he asked about me. "She's seeing someone," Lena had said without thinking. Lucas didn't respond. He just smirked cold and tight-lipped and walked away. That was all I needed to know. I was finally moving on. And this time, I wasn't looking back. "What do you think he meant by that?" Lena asked, her voice low. "I don't know," I replied honestly. But later that same night, I received a message from Lucas Bennett. Just 3 words: "You've really grown up." There was no context, no punctuation, no explanation. I didn't reply. What was there to say? Time passed. I thought that would be the end of it. But one afternoon as I walked out of the library with Ethan Graham, my phone rang. It was Lucas. "I'm at Campus A," he said. "Thought I'd stop by. There's a forum going on today. I also picked up your favorite pastries." His tone was casual, like everything between us had never happened. Like the years I had spent loving him were just a footnote. Like the confession I made didn't matter. Like Ethan didn't exist. I hesitated before answering. "Yes, I'm here." The sun was soft above us, and Ethan gently turned his head, holding the umbrella over me with one hand and giving me quiet space with the other. Even when he wasn't speaking, his presence reassured me. Lucas and I were no longer lovers, but because of the connection between our families, we could never truly be strangers. Still, he had never wronged me. He just never loved me. That was all. "You don't have to," I said politely. "I'm on a diet. I've cut out sugar lately." There was a pause. When he spoke again, his voice was softer, just barely trembling beneath the surface. Then, "Can I treat you to lunch instead? I already have plans," I answered without hesitation. "I'm meeting my boyfriend." The silence on the other end was deafening. I could almost hear his breath catch sharp and disbelieving. Boyfriend," he repeated slowly. "Yes, Lucas," I said, voice steady. Lena wasn't lying. I really do have a boyfriend now. Just then, I stepped around the corner of the dormitory building, and there he was. Lucas Bennett standing under my window, holding a paper bag crumpled slightly in his grip. The sleek cut of his coat, his polished shoes. Everything about him still commanded attention. I wasn't the only one who noticed. Several girls walking by turned their heads. He looked up and saw me. I approached him slowly, ending my call. "Lucas," I said quietly. He looked at me for a long moment. "Aren't you going to introduce us?" His voice was calm, but something about the way it tightened at the end gave him away. Was it tension containment? A struggle not to say what he really felt. Before I could answer, Ethan appeared beside me, sliding his hand gently into mine. He always did that, like he couldn't help wanting to protect me, like he needed to feel my hand in his, to know I was still there. He extended his free hand. "Hi, I'm Ethan Graham." Lucas didn't take it. He only stared, his face expressionless. The paper bag in his hand was crushed now, almost flat. He turned his gaze back to me, eyebrows lifting slightly. "You didn't tell him who I am." The question caught me off guard. What do you mean by that?" I asked, heart thudding. But his eyes didn't move. I swallowed and turned to Ethan. "This is Lucas," I said carefully. "He's a neighbor. From back home." The bag slipped from Lucas's hand, hitting the ground. The pastries spilled onto the concrete, completely forgotten. For a moment, his lips parted as if to speak. Then he only muttered, "Just a neighbor, huh?" Something in that line must have cut deep. His face changed. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away. Winter came early that year. The northern wind howled through the city, and the first snowfall arrived long before we expected it. Lena planned a ski trip, and I brought Ethan along. On the drive up the mountain, Ethan handed me a warm pouch for my hands. When we stepped out of the car, he wrapped a scarf around me, tucking it in neatly to keep the cold from sneaking in. Snow landed in his hair and on his long lashes, turning him silver at the edges. I laughed softly. "Ethan, has anyone ever told you that your eyelashes are ridiculously long?" He smiled. "Not really, no." "Well, someone just did," I teased. Could I balance a stick on them? He handed me my gloves without a word, his fingers brushing mine as I slid them on. He always paid attention, always noticed what I needed before I even had to ask. That's what it felt like being safe. This trip marked the first time I introduced him to my friends. Lena, of course, was the most excited. She pulled me aside the moment she got the chance. "Vivi," she whispered, "your boyfriend is way too handsome. Didn't I tell you the best way to get over someone is to fall for someone new?" I smiled, trying not to look over my shoulder. "Lucas is here too, isn't he?" "He is," she confirmed. "But he seems tied up with work. He's in a business call or something." That was fine. We couldn't avoid each other forever. Our social circles overlapped. But I didn't have to make it awkward either. Ethan returned with a warm drink. "You've been coughing a bit. Here, it'll help." His thoughtfulness made my chest ache in the best way. I gave him a soft smile. "You and Lena should go change into ski gear. I'll sit and watch everyone." Truth be told, I was awful at sports. Despite the years I never learned how to ski. "I'll teach you," he said. His eyes lit up completely serious. "You're really good at this, huh?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. Ethan gave me a grin that was anything but modest. "I'm very good," he said without a hint of apology. I laughed, shaking my head. "All right then, show me." I decided to change into my ski gear. Lena and Blake were already out on the slope, zipping down with style, under the orange glow of sunset. Their silhouettes cut sharply through the snow, and I found myself watching with awe. Ethan must have noticed the admiration in my eyes. He adjusted my goggles gently and tucked my hair beneath my helmet with careful fingers. "I'll hold you," he said softly. "What, I'll hold you while we ski?" He reached out a hand. Dressed in all black, towering at 6'2", he looked calm, confident in control. Before I knew it, my arms were wrapped tightly around his neck, clinging on for dear life. "I'm heavy, aren't I?" "You're not. You should eat more, Ethan." "Can you really do this?" "Trust me." He lifted me easily, his arms sliding beneath my legs. We were so close that I could hear nothing but the rhythm of his breath, steady and warm, against my cheek. From the distance, Lena and Blake hollered and teased us. I blushed furiously, but Ethan just smiled like none of it mattered. "You ready?" he asked, voice low beside my ear. "Yeah, then let's go." The first few seconds were wild. I shrieked as we rushed forward, totally off balance. "Ethan!" I yelled, half in panic, half in excitement. "I got you," he said firmly. We flew across the snow, and I caught a glimpse of the sun dipping low behind the mountain. "Look, Vivi," he said. The sunset. It was stunning, but not as much as the boy whose arms held me like I was something precious. Ethan was incredible on skis. I never knew he was this good. He maneuvered through curves, tried different stances, adjusting every movement to make it easy for me. For once, I wasn't scared of falling. But when we stopped to catch our breath, I felt a strange weight press on me, a stare. I turned slightly and saw him, Lucas. He stood at the edge of the slope, dressed in gear, silent eyes locked on us. I had no idea when he'd arrived, but he was here. The memories came rushing back. Years ago, it was Lucas who tried to teach me how to ski. He was patient, always holding my hands, guiding my steps. I was hopeless, but he never lost his temper. When others joked or distracted us, he would brush them off. "Go mess around somewhere else," he used to say. "My Vivi's trying to learn." It hit me then, what I thought was love may have just been attachment. Habits. Dependency. Now I no longer needed him. The others cheered, urging both Ethan and Lucas to race. They were the best skiers among us. Everyone wanted to see them go head to head. I shook my head and squeezed Ethan's hand. "Don't," I whispered. Lucas scoffed. "What, you scared he's gonna lose?" Ethan looked down at me, his grip firm. "It's okay, I'll be careful." I nodded quietly. "Just be safe." Lucas's face darkened. His eyes drifted to our joined hands. He looked like he wanted to burn the whole world down. They headed toward the chairlift while Lena leaned in. "I don't get it," she whispered. "Why would Lucas agree to this? Is he jealous?" I shook my head, unsure. Didn't he tell me to date someone else, to explore, to learn the difference between love and comfort? And I added with a bitter smile, what kind of brother gets jealous anyway? The race began. The mountain echoed with cheers. My heart clenched as I watched. At first they were evenly matched, gliding in near-perfect sync. But halfway down, Lucas began closing the gap. And then suddenly he swerved. His board clipped Ethan's. Ethan crashed hard into the snow. Lucas crossed the finish line alone. Only those who had ever skied at that speed would understand how brutal a fall like that could be. Lucas stopped in front of me, breathing heavy, triumphant. "See, Vivi," he said without saying it. His eyes told me everything. The one you chose is weak. I'm the one you should have picked. But I didn't give him the satisfaction. I stared at him coldly. Was that fun for you? He flinched. Without another word, I rushed to Ethan's side. Are you okay? I asked, kneeling beside him. I'm fine, he insisted. It didn't hurt. He tried to sit up, but his limbs trembled. I could see it. The pain, the struggle. You're not fine, I whispered. You can't even stand. I really am okay. He smiled through it. Gentle, steady, just like always. But inside me something snapped. I wasn't the gentle girl I used to be, not in this moment. I stood up, turned to Lucas, and said, Apologize. His brows shot up. What, you heard me. Apologize. You made him fall. He let out a bitter laugh. You can't be serious, Vivi. I am. I saw it. You did that on purpose. So what? He said, his voice rising. You're gonna choose him over me, over your childhood. I'm not choosing a stranger, I said quietly. We've known each other for a long time. Lucas stared at me, stunned. I like him, I said. I really, really like him. Every word was deliberate. His name is Ethan Graham, and he's my boyfriend. In that moment, everything went quiet. The kind of silence that sucks the air out of your lungs and makes your skin prickle. Everyone around us froze. All of our friends had known, everyone had always known that for years, my world had revolved around Lucas Bennett. I was his shadow, the girl who followed him everywhere. People used to joke that it was only a matter of time before we ended up together. I used to believe it too. But everyone missed one important truth. If someone truly loves you, they wouldn't make you wait forever. The air turned thick with tension. Lena gave Blake a subtle nudge, silently telling him to pull Lucas away before things got worse. But Lucas didn't move. His eyes were bloodshot with frustration. He kicked his snowboard hard, sending a spray of snow into the air, and then he shouted, Fine, I wasted all those years caring about you for nothing. And with that, he turned and stormed off, disappearing into the swirling snow. I turned back and slowly helped Ethan Graham to his feet. Luckily, the private ski resort had its own medical team. After a thorough check, they confirmed he had some deep bruises around the knee and a minor ankle sprain. Throughout it all, Ethan stayed calm. Even when they popped his ankle back into place, he didn't flinch. My throat tightened with guilt. Once the doctors had left, I sat beside him and whispered, I'm sorry. I didn't think it would turn out like this. I didn't think Lucas would do something like that either, I added. Ethan turned to me, his eyes warm in the soft golden light. He squeezed my hand gently. It's all right, Vivi. I'm glad you brought me here. Meeting your friends, it meant a lot to me. That was just how Ethan was, soft-spoken, endlessly patient, and always kind. When I stepped out of the room, I ran straight into Lucas. He was leaning against the hallway wall like a lost man. We stared at each other for a moment. Then he pushed off the wall and approached. He raised his hand like he always did, reaching for my head as if to pat it. But I stepped back. What, you afraid of me now? He asked, his voice low, his brows furrowed. You're guarding yourself from me like this, Lucas, I said. Steady, calm. I have a boyfriend now. You and I. Physical closeness like that, it's not appropriate anymore. I don't want to keep lying to myself and pretending your gestures mean more than they do. His jaw clenched. So that's it, just because of him. This isn't about him, I replied. It's about boundaries. Even if we were just siblings, which we're not, we'd still need space. Lucas's lips quivered with suppressed emotion. You've only been with him for a short while, and you're already this protective of him. You like him that much, I think. I just want to respect this relationship. That means not holding on to the past, not keeping you so close anymore. He looked wounded, like the words cut deeper than he expected. Lucas, I said again. Remember when you said girls who are too forward lose their value? You said that to me once. Did you forget? He scoffed, bitter. So you're still mad at me for that? I'm not mad. I just don't like you anymore. I stepped around him and walked away. After that day, I didn't see Lucas for a long time. Occasionally I'd hear from others that his project with Sophia Collins was thriving. People called them a perfect match. Some even said wedding bells might be around the corner. I didn't care. I was too busy staying up late in the dorms, working on my thesis, or spending time with Ethan. He introduced me to his team, shared his dreams, explained their startup plans with so much enthusiasm that I couldn't help but be proud of him. Sometimes, when they were busy brainstorming, I'd quietly sit in a corner of the office working on my own assignments. If I coughed, Ethan would wordlessly hand me a warm drink without interrupting his flow. If I looked tired, he'd drape a blanket over my shoulders. He never missed a beat. He never said no to me, not once. And slowly I found myself falling deeply into the comfort of his love. Lena had once told me that when someone truly loves you, they become your shelter. I didn't fully understand it back then, but now I did. A few days before the Lunar New Year, Ethan surprised me with a gift. It was a necklace. Simple, delicate, nothing fancy, but I could tell it was the best he could afford. There was also a bank card tucked inside the box. "What's this?" I asked. "There's 500,000 yuan in there," he said. "A partial repayment." I blinked. Where did you get that much money?" He looked straight into my eyes and gently slipped the card into my coat pocket. "The game we developed." It suddenly blew up. Friends started sharing it like crazy. This is part of the profit. I knew about their side project, but I never imagined it would actually bring in real revenue. "I mean, you didn't have to give it back so soon," I murmured. To me, that amount of money felt no different than the cost of a designer handbag. I hoped he'd keep it for his future, invest in his startup, or simply live more comfortably. Almost like he could read my mind, Ethan Graham smiled softly and said I kept a part of it. "You don't have to worry about me. And my grandmother's being taken care of now, too." I accepted the money he returned, but as I held the bank card in my hand, a strange thought surfaced. Our relationship had started with money, so if he paid it all back, would that mean the relationship ended too? No way. "Don't tell me you actually like him now." Lena's voice broke my thoughts. She nudged my shoulder and looked at me like I'd just grown wings. I was quiet for a moment, then nodded. There was nothing shameful about liking someone. And when I pictured Ethan in my mind, his calm eyes, the way he always waited patiently for me, never rushing, I felt warm inside. He never flirted with other girls, not even in his tight-knit entrepreneur group. My dormmates used to call him the flower on the mountaintop. Too distant, too cold, too proud. But when I got close, I saw a very different side. In quiet corners of campus, hidden gardens, or empty corridors, he would hold me so tightly I could barely breathe. And yet, we had never even kissed. "What, you've been together for almost 6 months and haven't kissed? Are you sure he's okay?" Lena's eyes widened. "I don't think it's that," I answered. "I think he just respects me." She went quiet, then nodded more seriously. All right, I won't joke. But Vivi, you do realize the gap between your two families is massive. You started out unclear from the very beginning. This whole arrangement wasn't exactly traditional." She paused, looking hesitant. "You've seen the headlines. Poor boy marries heiress, ends in ugly separation. You're still in college. Have your fun if you want, but don't fall too deep. If you really like this kind of guy, there'll be time to take care of one later." I was about to reply, but I felt someone standing behind us. I turned and saw Lucas Bennett. I wasn't sure if I was imagining it, but I thought I saw the corner of his mouth twitch. Was he smirking? New Year's Day, as soon as I got home, Mom dragged me next door to the Bennett's place. It was tradition for our families to celebrate the holidays together. "Lucas isn't feeling well," Mom said. "Take this tea up to him, will you? I'll finish up in the kitchen." I took the cup and started up the stairs, confused. I had just seen him earlier, and he seemed perfectly fine. Why was he suddenly sick? I knocked on the door and stepped inside. Lucas was lying in bed, a cooling patch stuck to his forehead, looking pale and out of sorts. He didn't even open his eyes, just reached out a hand. I handed him the tea and asked gently, "Are you feeling any better?" Our fingers brushed. His skin was burning hot. I quickly pulled away, glancing down. Something in his expression flickered disappointment. Maybe he pointed toward the desk. "I got you something." "That's not necessary," I started. Vivi, his voice grew serious. He coughed violently, and I instinctively reached out to pat his back. But then he caught my wrist. "Since when do little sisters start turning down gifts from their older brothers?" He said it so lightly, but each word felt like a hammer. He had always bought me gifts every holiday, every celebration, but now it felt different. Like he was forcing himself into a role he didn't even believe in. "Got a boyfriend now, and suddenly there's no room for your brother, huh?" He kept emphasizing the word brother, and it made me wonder, had I been the one reading too much into everything? "Thanks, Lucas," I said finally. "Really?" He leaned back against the pillows. "How have you been lately?" Before I could answer, My phone buzzed. It was Ethan. I turned slightly to take the call. He asked if I was free that afternoon. The stray cat we'd rescued had finally found a forever home, and he wanted us to stop by the shelter. He also asked if I'd like to have dinner that evening. I said yes. When I hung up, I noticed Lucas's expression had darkened. But in the next second, he smiled like nothing had happened. "Aren't you supposed to go flower arranging with my mom this afternoon?" I hesitated, then bit my lip and nodded. At dinner, my mom suddenly brought up Lucas and Sophia. "Are they dating?" she asked casually. Lucas answered almost immediately. "No, we're just working together on a project." My mom smiled. "Sophia's a lovely girl. You should act fast before someone else snatches her up." As soon as she said that, Lucas's eyes flicked toward me. I didn't know what he was thinking. Aunt Bennett joined in with a laugh. "Don't just worry about Lucas. We need to think about our Vivi too. She's already 22. I quickly set down my chopsticks and waved it off. "I can take care of myself." Then someone mentioned Blake Carter from the Carter family. Good looks, good personality. My mom added, "Please, that boy's a bit slow, always seems confused." At that very moment, Blake was off at a hot spring resort, with Lena probably sneezing from a distance. After the meal, I made up an excuse to leave. But Lucas followed my dad back to our house, saying he wanted to help trim the garden. I went upstairs to gather my things and paused by the gift room. I stood there for a moment, then walked in and placed the gift Lucas had given me inside, still unopened. When I came back downstairs, I heard my father yell in panic. I rushed over. "Vivi, call 911, Lucas fell and hurt his leg." At the hospital, Lucas looked at me with an apologetic smile. "I guess it's been too long since I used that old saw." I glanced at his bandaged leg, unsure of what to say. I pulled out my phone. Ethan had just messaged me. "Don't worry, take your time. I'm here if you need me." "Want me to come to the hospital and help?" "You've got something important to do," Lucas asked. "If you do, it's okay. I can manage." I looked down at his injured leg. Truthfully, he could manage just fine without me, couldn't he? "When you get back," he added with a light smile, "could you bring me a bottle of water? I might not be able to get around much." And I left my laptop at home. There's still some work I need to finish. "Vivi, could you grab it for me?" My mom called shortly after to remind me to take good care of him. After all, he was sick and still trying to help out with yard work when he got hurt. But something didn't sit right with me. "Wasn't this all a bit too convenient, Lucas?" "Did you do this on purpose?" I asked. "So I wouldn't leave your sight today." He looked genuinely surprised. He hadn't expected me to be so blunt. But he kept his cool. "You think I'm that calculating?" "It's hard not to," I said. "If I did, what would I gain?" he asked. I froze. "You're my brother. You don't love me." "So why?" My thoughts were a mess. I forced a smile. "I'll have someone bring you your laptop. And a nurse to help you around. I've got plans with my boyfriend. I'm leaving now." As the door shut behind me, I thought I heard something crash to the floor. Time passed. Neither of us brought up that day again, but the air between us was never quite the same. Ethan told me they were staying at the office through the holiday break. A new project was nearing completion, the game they'd been developing for the past year. It was an Automate game, and Ethan was the lead designer. I teased him. "So that's why you're so good at treating your girlfriend. You've been studying the needs of girls for work." He chuckled. "Want to help us test it? There are some character paths we made up based on references, but we've got no real-life experience." So during those weeks, I became a special consultant for their team, helping tweak dialogues and designs. The more I worked on the game, the more I realized it had real potential. I decided to invest. But Ethan declined. It was the first time he'd ever refused me. Why, I asked. "With my investment, you could scale faster." "Vivi," he said gently. "I'm already grateful. When everything was collapsing around me, you gave me a hand. You helped me breathe again. You helped my grandma stay healthy. You let me finish school and chase a dream." He looked at me with calm, steady eyes. "My life is getting better now, and I have you. I don't want you to give anything more. You already took the first step toward me. Let me take the rest toward you." "Okay." It was the first time he'd spoken so earnestly about us. My heart warmed, but I still teased him. "Ethan Graham, I bet you'll succeed. I bet my investment would have made a profit." I signed anyway for a 10% equity stake. When the school break started, Lena dragged us to a tattoo parlor. I said no right away. No way. I'm scared of needles. She turned to Blake Carter. Blake looked at Ethan. And somehow it ended with both them lying on tattoo beds, while Lena and I sat back watching. Blake screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Lena sighed in relief. Thank God I listened to you, Blake Carter cried out. If I hadn't, I'd be the one in pain right now. He was wincing dramatically on the tattoo bed, while Lena rolled her eyes. When the tattoo artist finally stepped out, I realized what Ethan Graham had chosen to ink. He had tattooed my name on his side. The skin around it was still red and tender. I couldn't help but reach out and touch it gently. As my fingers brushed his firm waist, Lena quickly snapped a photo. Damn, she grinned. He's seriously hot. I pulled my hand back immediately flustered, but Ethan caught my fingers and held them. The look in his eyes had a flicker of possessiveness that made my chest tighten. From the other side of the room, Blake yelled, Lena, you heartless woman. Why aren't you looking at me? I'm in agony here. That photo Lena took, she posted it. And the comments poured in. That night, I received a message from Lucas. Just a question mark. I didn't reply. I was already on a plane with Lena heading out for a quick vacation. A week later, I returned and dove straight back into game development. I'd invested in this project after all. When I came home, it was New Year's Eve. I scarfed down dinner and slipped away trying to dodge the death stare Lucas shot me across the table. Upstairs, I opened my laptop and resumed working on my study abroad application, something I'd planned for a while. Back then, I didn't want to inherit the family business, because I felt too young and unready, but time with Ethan and his team had lit something in me. Watching them pour everything into their dreams, I felt inspired. I wanted to grow into someone who could stand tall too. Maybe Lucas sensed something was off. My phone rang, it was my mom, but his voice answered. You're avoiding me, aren't you? He asked. I paused. Since that tense conversation weeks ago, we hadn't spoken. I stared at my screen. No, I replied. At that moment, Ethan messaged on my tablet. I'm with my mentor, should be done around 8. Are you free later? I typed back, nothing planned. Lucas must have heard the notification ping. His voice grew colder. Texting your boyfriend, I responded softly. Yes. You're not coming tonight, he asked. We always spend New Year's together. Not this year, I said. You should go have fun. Happy New Year, Lucas. You're not taking your New Year's gift, he pressed. I froze. Since I could remember every New Year's Eve after dinner, we'd celebrate together, watch fireworks, stay up late, and exchange gifts. I'd always poured my childish hopes into those presents for him. But now it all felt wrong, too ambiguous. I didn't like that kind of ambiguity anymore. Thank you, I said. But I'm 22 now. I'm not a little girl anymore. I won't take a gift this year. In the background, I heard voices his friends. What's up? Why isn't Vivi coming? Someone asked. Didn't you hear she's out with her boyfriend? Another answered. You didn't see Lena's post, man. Kids these days. Makes no sense. Something clattered in the background. Lucas, your gift for Vivi just fell. I couldn't see his face, but I could feel the weight in the silence. I'm hanging up now, I said quickly. Have fun tonight. After ending the call, I messaged Ethan. What's the plan? He replied almost instantly. I want to take you outside the city, watch the fireworks. Can you come? Yes, I typed back and ran off to change. This time, I had a gift for him too. He always gave first tonight. I wanted him to know he was just as deserving. The fireworks lit up the night sky, bright and bold, like a love confession bursting into color. It was the perfect backdrop for a first kiss. Ethan wrapped his arm around my waist, pulling me close. His lips found mine soft and tentative at first. We bumped teeth and laughed nervously, but then something shifted. He lifted my chin, one hand on the small of my back, pressing me against his chest. His kiss deepened, growing more urgent, more possessive, until my knees went weak. I clung to his neck, the world fading in the heat of that moment. Then an unexpected sound, the sharp chime of a phone ringing. We broke apart, breathless. I turned and saw him. Lucas. He was standing just beyond the glow of the fireworks, hidden in the shadows, his eyes unreadable and burning with something I couldn't name. Ethan Graham placed his hand gently on my head, shielding me in the safe circle of his arms. For a man who had always been calm, patient, and kind, this was the first time I had seen a fire in his eyes. He wasn't loud or violent. but the anger simmered beneath the surface like lava waiting to break free. His gaze locked onto Blake Carter. "So, Blake, do you enjoy watching other people be affectionate?" There was a quiet storm building in the space between them, and though no one said anything, we could all feel it. My heart thudded against my ribs. I stood frozen, unsure of what to say or do. Blake's breathing was ragged, his jaw clenched as he tried to maintain composure, but his voice betrayed him when he finally spoke. "Vivi, come here." His tone wasn't a plea, it was a demand. I didn't move. Every muscle in his face was tight, every line drawn with tension. "Come over here, or do you want me to carry you? Maybe I should just tell your parents what you're doing out here in the dark." My chest tightened. "Are you threatening me, Blake? I kissed my boyfriend. That's not wrong." He closed his eyes slowly, like he was counting down something. And when he opened them, he stepped forward and without warning punched Ethan across the face. The blow cracked through the night like thunder, and the two of them began to fight. My screams went unheard, and within minutes, we were all surrounded by chaos. When my parents found out I had been dating, they grounded me immediately. No discussions, no questions, just rules. I pleaded, tried to reason, tried to explain who Ethan was and how he treated me, but it didn't matter. "You don't understand him," I said, almost in tears. "Why are you dismissing him before giving him a chance?" My father shook his head, stern and unyielding. "Vivi, don't make mistakes you'll regret. You and that boy live in different worlds. This will not end well." My mother was softer, her voice less sharp, but her message was the same. "This is your first love, I know how deep it can feel. But I only have one daughter, and I want her with someone we can trust." Blake stood nearby, silent until now, his words colder than winter wind. "You and Ethan don't belong together." I laughed bitterly. "Happy now, Blake? Is this the outcome you wanted?" He didn't flinch. "I'm doing this for you." "I don't need you to protect me," I snapped. "I'm not a child anymore. I can decide what's right and wrong." His expression was hard, but his eyes were desperate. "You still don't get it. If there wasn't a money connection between you two, he wouldn't be around. You'd have nothing to do with each other." That's when I knew. Everything that happened before all those coincidences were deliberate. "So what if that's true?" I challenged. He stepped closer, brushing his fingers against my cheek. "Then break up with him. Come back to me. Isn't that what you wanted all along?" I slapped his hand away. "Have you forgotten how you rejected me? How you told me I wasn't your type?" "I was wrong," he said quickly. "I didn't want to admit it then, but I like you. I can't stand seeing you with someone else." I didn't reply. Instead, I gathered every gift he had ever given me and dumped them into his yard. "You don't get to change your mind just because you're uncomfortable now. You didn't want me when I wanted you, and now that I've moved on, you think you can rewrite the past." He looked stunned, but I continued. "You rejected me because I didn't fit some ideal. Now that I'm not chasing you, you think I'm supposed to stay in your orbit forever. It doesn't work that way." He tried again. "Vivi, you were always with me. Why not now?" "Because I'm done being the girl who waits," I said. "You never chose me, and now it's too late." His silence told me everything. When Sophia Collins came to visit me, I was surprised. I hadn't expected her to reach out. "Blake and I have only met a few times," she said. "We're not dating." Her voice sounded like she was explaining it to herself more than to me. "We've known each other for years. If we were going to be something, it would have happened already." I nodded slowly. "Everyone says Blake likes you." She sighed, eyes distant. "He likes you, Vivi. He just doesn't know what to do with it." But what did that matter anymore? He had his chance. He turned me away, called me his sister. And now he suddenly claims to have feelings for me. It was ridiculous. "He doesn't get to do that," I said quietly. "He doesn't get to confuse me like this." Sophia agreed. "He lost you. He deserves that pain. Everyone else sees how special you are. He's the only one who didn't." I remembered that night in the rain when Blake looked at me like I was a burden, like I was foolish for caring. If he truly loved me, could he have looked at me that way? Back then he thought being family meant safety, meant fewer chances of heartbreak. But he forgot that even family grows apart. Even siblings move on. And eventually, everyone builds their own life. I had started building mine. And Blake Carter was no longer a part of it. There are some relationships that once broken can never return to the way they were. Sophia Collins looked at me gently, her voice soft but steady as she peeled back the layers of Lucas Bennett's feelings. She wasn't here to defend him. No, she came to help me see my heart clearly, to help me stay firm in the decision I had made. Some people are meant to be missed, not meant to stay. The present matters more than the past, especially when the one in front of you is kind, devoted, and worthy. Before leaving, she handed me a letter. It was from Ethan Graham. My parents had brought Lena Moore and Blake Carter over to visit me, so they'd asked Sophia to bring the letter on their behalf. Inside was a bank card. Ethan had returned double the money I once lent him. His handwriting was calm and even. Vivi, being with you was the most beautiful chapter in my life. But I've come to understand just how different we are, our families, our careers. To everyone else, I was never a match for you. I used to think you were only playing with me or using me to prove something. And even then I went along with it, because I loved you long before you ever noticed me. How could anyone not fall in love with someone as radiant, as intelligent, and as warm as you? So thank you for giving me a chance to be by your side, for helping me when I was drowning, and for letting me believe that someone like you could want someone like me. I love you, Vivi. And because I love you, I want you to be happy. Don't fight for me anymore. If one day I become worthy of you, I'll come find you. If not, and you choose someone else, I'll bless you with all my heart, because you deserve more than anything this world can give. I left for my studies abroad earlier than expected. My parents believed it was the right move. I didn't argue. I didn't try to contact Ethan again. That decision I let others make for me, as if that somehow freed me from the pain. Lucas Bennett visited every week, just like he always had. He cooked for me, watched TV with me, made sure I had everything I needed. But inside, I felt nothing. I didn't resist anymore. What was the point? Resistance hadn't brought me anything but exhaustion. I buried myself in work and study, ignoring everything else. I thought maybe one day, when I'm powerful enough, I can reclaim the right to choose for myself. So I threw myself into the family business, stripping away my personal feelings, pushing myself to be exceptional. My parents were pleased. They said I had finally grown up. Lucas smiled, telling me we had all the time in the world. Everyone seemed happy, everyone but me. In the quiet moments when my body was drained and my mind too tired to argue, I thought of Ethan. He would always highlight the important lines in my textbooks, bring me warm drinks when I coughed, and let me rest in his arms when I needed comfort. His eyes held a kind of love that never asked for anything, that never demanded I become someone else. Just looking at him, I felt seen. One night, I stared at Lena's social media page, fingers frozen above the screen. I wondered, had he erased my name after repaying everything? Had he finally moved on? By the second year, I had mastered the workings of our business. I was placed in charge of a branch overseas and delivered results that far exceeded expectations. Sophia, Lena, and Blake dragged me out to celebrate, raising their glasses to the birth of a new queen. I laughed brightly, toasting to my transformation into Sophia's successor. That night, we drank, gossiped, and laughed like we were kids again. Somewhere between the laughter and the drinks, Lena let it slip. Ethan and his team had created a string of successful mobile games, each more popular than the last. Their company now had hundreds of employees. Just last week, they released a game designed specifically for women, and it had already reached the top of the charts. The room fell quiet. Ethan's name felt like a stone dropped into still water, stirring everything I had tried so hard to keep calm. My heart beat faster, memories rushing back like a tide I could no longer hold back. I hadn't heard his name in so long, but it still had that power. It always would. I didn't say a word. I just smiled, sipping my drink in silence, while my mind wandered to a man I had once promised myself I wouldn't think about anymore. Yet here he was again, living quietly in the corners of my heart. The one who never forced his way, and the one who waited. Maybe he had forgotten me, maybe not. But I hadn't forgotten him. Later that night, after the celebration, I found myself walking along the river near my apartment. The breeze was gentle. The lights of the city reflected on the water, and everything felt strangely still. I thought about where I was, about everything I had accomplished. I had become someone that everyone admired, someone my parents were proud of, someone Lucas always believed I could be. But was I happy? I pulled out my phone. My fingers hovered above Ethan's name for a long time. I didn't press it. I couldn't. Not yet. I slipped the phone back into my coat pocket, closing my eyes against the chill in the air, because no matter how far I had come, no matter how strong I appeared, A part of me was still standing in that snowy town on New Year's Eve, still hearing his voice say, "I love you, Vivi, and I want you to be happy." And I didn't know if I had ever really been happy since. I glanced to the side and Blake Carter quickly covered Lena Moore's mouth before she could say anything more. He raised his glass with a grin. "Come on, Vivi, I'll toast to you." By the time the celebration wound down, Lucas Bennett appeared. Sitting quietly on the bench outside the apartment, I turned to him and said softly, "Lucas, I don't love you anymore. Even though you've always been within my reach for all these years, I don't feel that way about you anymore." His expression faltered. "You still haven't forgiven me, have you?" I shook my head gently. "I've already forgiven you, but that doesn't mean I still love you. There was a time I believed I'd love you forever, but you see, people change. You still haven't forgotten him, have you? We've grown up together, Vivi, more than 20 years of memories, and they mean less than 6 months you spent with him." His eyes turned red, voice trembling with something like disbelief. In life, the order in which someone appears makes all the difference. Too early or too late can change everything. I looked at him quietly. "Lucas, it's not about comparison. There's nothing between us left to compare. Sophia once told me that some things once missed are missed forever. Let's keep our dignity. You'll always be my big brother, but I don't want to be your brother." A tear slid down his cheek. And just like that, it felt like we were back at the beginning of this story. Except now the roles had reversed. "Lucas, my heart belongs to someone else. There's no space left for you anymore. Please go. Don't look for me again." I stood and walked upstairs without looking back. In my 3rd year, I completed my studies abroad and led our overseas branch to unexpected growth. I became one of those names parents proudly mentioned when talking about their children. I hadn't returned home in 3 years. When Lena came to help me pack, she asked carefully, "Vivi, do you still think about Ethan Graham?" I didn't respond. "Have you seen him?" Since I shook my head. When I left, my phone had been confiscated. I got a new one, new SIM, new number. On top of that, my parents and Lucas were constantly hovering, always watching. I had no way of contacting him. News of him only reached me through the media or through Lena. Then she pulled out her phone, opened her photo album, and handed it to me. "Each month he came to where you lived." Even I didn't know. I stared at the screen, frozen. Why am I only finding out about this now? There was a post on a student forum, Lena explained. Someone said they kept seeing a handsome man at the entrance of the university. It looked like he was searching for someone, maybe just hoping to catch a glimpse. There were comments with photos and people saying they had seen him on different days, across different months. Always alone, always quiet. When everything was pieced together, the forum realized he had been coming for 3 years straight, never missing a single month. But the person he was waiting for never showed up. I covered my face with both hands, and tears spilled uncontrollably. The moment I stepped off the plane, a notification popped up on my phone. A large amount of money had just been deposited into my account. I stared at the sender's name, and it hit me. It was the return on the investment I made in Ethan's gaming company. I'd heard the game they launched recently had earned hundreds of millions in revenue in just 1 week. It was everywhere. The success of that game had pushed Ethan into the spotlight, making him a rising star among young entrepreneurs. I always knew he could do it. He never let me down. So this is what my return looks like, I thought. At that exact moment, my phone lit up with a call. The number was unfamiliar, but my heart skipped. Somehow, deep down, I just knew. I picked up. On the other end, I heard that warm, familiar voice. "Vivi, I've come for you. If one day I became worthy of you, I'd come back. Remember our bet from 3 years ago? You said you bet I'd win. You said you bet your investment would turn a profit." His voice was clear, steady, comforting. "And those letters I never got to send you over the last 3 years, do you want to read them? Every one of them has your name on it. Turn around."